Let's count down. 5, 4, 3.
Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalam. Ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wa man ahsanu qawlan mimman da'a ila Allah wa amila salihan. Wa qala innani minal muslimin. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. I welcome all of you with Islamic greetings. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I welcome all the viewers of the Peace TV Network, the Peace TV English, the Peace TV Urdu, the Peace TV Bangla, and the Peace TV Chinese, as well as the viewers on my social media platforms, which are the Facebook, the YouTube, the Instagram, the Twitter, and the Alida platform. I welcome all of you with the Islamic greetings. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May peace, mercy, and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of Almighty God, be on all of you. I welcome all the viewers to this program, Ask Dr. Zakir, Season 8, Session 4. Here you are most welcome to ask any questions on Islam and comparative religion, or any question which a non-Muslim may pose and you are unable to reply, or any question or attack that you find in the media. If you require a clarification, this is the opportunity. You are most welcome to ask your questions on any of the social media platforms, but the best and the highest chances of it being replied if you ask as a subscriber on the Alida platform, and the next is as a text message on the WhatsApp. You can mention your question in brief, along with your name, your profession, your city and country, as a text message to the WhatsApp number +60 1121 33 3360. I repeat, +60 1121 33 3360. Inshallah, we'll leave the first question. The first question is from the Alida platform. Vireshappa, a hospital attendant from Karnataka, India. Assalamu alaikum, sir. Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh. I am a reverted Muslim, alhamdulillah. My question is, why Peace TV is not broadcasting through air, radio or FM? Because I think it is very easy to access radio than TV. So please telecast Peace TV on radio or FM so that people all over the world may inshallah hear the true guidance for humanity. May Allah reward you with goodness. This is my important question to you, sir. Please, 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 15 times please. Answer me. MashaAllah. May Allah bless you. May He accept all your du'as. Please make du'as for me to do more ibadah to Allah, to be a good believer and a da'i. May Allah guide us to straight path. Ameen. I am a subscriber of Al-Hidayah. Brother Virashappa, who's a revert, he asked a question on the Al-Hidayah platform that why don't we telecast Peace TV on the FM radio? Because he feels that more easy to access and more people will watch. Normally when you broadcast from the satellite, it can be of two types. It is audio broadcast, like for example on the radio, or it's a video broadcast like a television. The video broadcast is called a telecast. You cannot telecast on the radio, just to correct you. But coming to a basic question that why don't we broadcast the audio signals of the Peace TV on the radio FM? The point to be noted is that, but naturally the reach of the satellite is multiple times more. The reach of the television satellite is multiple times more than a radio. Yes, there was a the time when radio was #1 in the world. But a few decades earlier, when the television came, people thought that radio would be obsolete, but alhamdulillah, yet the radio is there. It has its own importance. But as time has kept on changing, but natural, earlier the television telecast was very expensive. It was beyond the budget of most of the people. Therefore, radio was an option, a cheaper option. Now, alhamdulillah, both have become cheaper. But today, depending upon your reach and your popularity, you have to take your decision. And according to me, today, the best media today in the world, which has the maximum reach, after all the advancement till today also, it is the television satellite channels. Yes, social media is catching up. The gap between the two is decreasing. But yet, as per today, 2021, according to my research, people may agree, may not agree, the television satellite channel is the best. And especially if you have a large viewership, the best and the cheapest method is telecasting through a satellite channel throughout the world. The radio FM today yet has its own benefits. I do agree with you that the reach of the radio in terms of people receiving radio signal is much more easier than receiving the television signals. For example, in India today, maybe 99% of India can receive the radio signal. The television satellite signals is much lesser. The analog is much more, maybe more than 90%, but the satellite digital is much less. I do agree with you. But today, people watch more of the television as compared to the radio. But radio has its own niche, especially if it's music. It's much more heard because people who love music, they like that. But seeing the genre of an Islamic entertainment channel, yet I would feel that satellite is the best amongst all. And now the audio broadcast has got various other options. You have the internet, you have streaming. Now this, on the internet and streaming, we have both the options. We have audio, we have video also. So that's the reason the options of audio and video have increased. So seeing all the various scenarios, if you have the budget, today I would recommend that the best is utilize the satellite media. You'll have the maximum reach at an effective cost. If you don't have budget at all, then the cheapest would be the social media. You can do it for free. You can spend hundreds and thousands of dollars. You can spend billions of dollars a month. You can spend much more than that. So it depends upon what level you want to reach on the social media. Radio also has its own advantage. For example, if you're traveling in the car and if you're in a traffic jam, people like listening to radio. And in the Islamic genre, the effective mode for radio broadcast is maybe the qiraat. More people would love to hear a qiraat, maybe a recitation of the Quran while they're traveling in a car. But if possible, you should try and use as many modes as possible. So best would be on the satellite channel as well as the radio FM, as well as on the internet and various methodologies. But as far as the radio FM is concerned, there are drawbacks in getting the license. It's not as easy as that. And especially in India, the Indian government, especially since we have the new government in the last few years, I do not know of any single Islamic satellite television channel which has got official broadcasting permission, except there's one Shia channel. But in the mainstream Islamic channel, I don't know of a single. Even Peace TV had applied and they have declined because it's a channel that is propagating the deen of Islam. Similarly, I doubt whether the Indian government would give permission for a radio FM to be launched in India. And the advantage of radio FM is it is more of a local, if you want to reach a particular city or a particular state in that particular language or a particular country. The international radio broadcast that is there, that's not that popular. The radio FM, which is localized, is more popular. It has its advantages, though it's not as widely watched as the television, but it has its own pros and cons. We tried, we could not get the permission in India, and we tried it in certain other countries. There are too many hassles, but natural, it is much cheaper than the satellite. So best is to have on the satellite and the radio and the internet. So because of the various problems that are there, we chose the best, the largest, that is the satellite, and we also done the internet on the various social media platforms. But the satellite reach, after the technology has increased, it is much more cheaper, especially if you have a large viewership. If on the satellite your viewership is small, it becomes very expensive per person. But if you have a large viewership, especially like what Peace TV has, it has more than 100 million viewers, then the effective cost is very cheap. Depending upon which country you're doing it. For example, when you used to telecast in USA, one is the reach that anyone who has a dish can watch. One is the potential viewership. It's coming in your house, you may watch or may not watch. So that time maybe our potential viewership was 100 million in USA. But the practical viewership was hardly 1 or 2 million. Actual viewership. And the cost of one person actually viewing Peace TV, it was per year approximately $3 to $5 per person watching full year. The same cost if we compared in UK, where our viewership was about 2-3 million, the cost per person was approximately $1 per year per person. Same if you compare in Asia, in the Indian subcontinent, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh and the other countries, our cost of telecast was in $1, 50 people could watch for the full year. That means it is so cheap. 50 people are watching full year and you are spending only $1. So comparatively, USA is about 250 times more expensive than the Indian subcontinent. And UK is about 50 times more expensive than the Indian subcontinent. Because the reach is wide, once you telecast, irrespective whether one person is watching, or 100 people are watching, or 1 million are watching, or 100 million are watching, the cost of telecast, the broadcast is the same. Unlike while streaming, the more people that stream, more expensive it is. Depending if you want a low quality or high quality, and the cost of streaming, if you want a high quality somewhat like Netflix, it's very expensive. So if you want to stream, like Peace TV network, alhamdulillah, according to 2016 estimate, it has more than 200 million viewers, similar to what Netflix has now. So the cost of streaming on the quality of Netflix on Amazon would be 100 times more expensive than what we are doing with the Peace TV. But naturally, the Netflix has the advantage of revenue, and they can do what you want, video on demand. So everything has its pros and cons. For that reason, we launched the Al Hidayah, which is a different platform. It's a streaming platform, and it's a subscription based. But I do agree with you, brother Pirishappa, that radio will increase the reach, but the headache involved and not getting the permission, we didn't really go into it. But it has its own pros and cons. But as far as the Islamic entertainment channel like Peace TV is concerned, the benefit will not be that much as compared to the money spent. That is the reason we didn't really go into the audio broadcast of the Peace TV channels. Hope that helps. The next question. Assalamu alaikum, sir. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Muhammad Hafiz. I am a student from Bijni, Assam, India. Should I go for the career first, then start the dawah work, or start giving dawah from now and be a full-time da'i? Please answer. Question on a similar topic is asked by Naseem from Bangladesh. I want to educate my son in Islamic education. Please tell me the names of some Islamic educational institutions inside and outside Bangladesh from which my child can acquire knowledge of Quran and Hadith. I want my child to acquire the highest knowledge of Islam in the light of Quran and Sunnah. As far as the first question was asked, that should I continue as far as my career is concerned or start doing dawah and become a full-time dai? As you have heard my answer in several earlier questions and in lectures, that as per the Quran, the best profession for a Muslim is that of a dai. Allah says in the Quran in Surah Fussilat, chapter number 41, verse number 33, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَالًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Who is better in speech than one who invites to the way of their Lord, who works righteousness, and says that I am a Muslim? So according to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the best profession is that of a dai. And for more details, you can refer to my other answers. So if you ask me that if you want, should I continue a normal career or should I do dawah and become a full-time dai? Of course, as far as the akhirah is concerned, the best profession is that of a dai. No other profession can come anywhere close to a dai. But naturally, Islamic scholar and dai, these are the highest level. And what was the profession of our beloved Prophet ﷺ? He was a messenger of God. And after the messengership had ended, our Prophet was the last and final messenger. It is the dais and the scholars who continue to spread the message of the deen. It is the best. I'll merge and continue with the first answer with the second question. The second question posed that he's from Bangladesh. He wants to give his son the highest education in Islam. He wants me to name some Islamic education institutions outside Bangladesh and within Bangladesh where he can educate his child to the best Islamic education levels. The brother didn't pose, he didn't tell me what was the age of his child, whether he's talking about school, whether he's talking about college, about university. I'll try and cover some of it. As far as the education system in Bangladesh is concerned, I have not been to Bangladesh, I'm not a researcher, so I'm not the right person to tell you which are the best schools or universities in Bangladesh. As far as the schooling is concerned, I can advise you that see to it that you find a good Islamic education school, preferably if it's an Islamic international school, it will be the best. See which is the best available in your country and try and enroll. See to it that the school is based on lines of Quran and Sunnah. As far as I'm concerned, you may be aware that I started a school in the year 2000, in the year 2001. That's about 20 years back. The Islamic International School in Mumbai, also Islamic International School in Chennai. And alhamdulillah, the main purpose of the school was education for both the worlds. Educate your children for this world as well as the akhirah. But naturally, more stress was paid on the akhirah. And we wanted to see to it that when the child passes the 12th standard A level, he has the basic knowledge that is required for a Muslim for the worldly affairs. And I felt that IGCSE, the Cambridge board, once you pass A level equivalent to 12th standard or the HSC, higher secondary school, a person gets fairly good knowledge of the worldly subjects. So if a person passes A levels of the Cambridge or the IGCSE or the HSC or the 12th standard as we call it, he fairly gets a good knowledge of the various subjects that are required for the worldly knowledge. If it's Islamic international school which is attached to a syllabus of the Cambridge, it's very good, or some international syllabus which gives a good education, simultaneously educating your child with the basics of Islam, then about Quran, Hadith, Sharia, Fiqh, like what we had in our school, Islamic International School. And alhamdulillah, it was a very successful school, mashallah. We had the main medium of instruction was English and Arabic. So if you can find a school whose main language of instruction, two languages I believe are most important. One is Arabic, the language of the Quran and the Sahih Hadith. And second is the English language, which is an international language, which is required for a person to dawah. And third, maybe the local language. If you are in Bangladesh, can be Bengali. If you are in India, can be Hindi, depending which state you are coming from. But the two main languages are Arabic and English. And our education was mainly in these two languages, and we saw to it that the selected children, about more than 1/3, who we felt can do hifz, they finish hifz by the time they reach standard 5, and from 5th to 10th they did muraja, so that they become a hafiz, which so that the person can become a hafiz who not only memorize the Quran but can repeat it very easily without any revision. Then Arabic, we wanted to make it strong besides English, so that both these languages become as good as their mother tongue. And we achieved success to a great level by the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So much so that, mashallah, that the students that graduated from our school, they could speak fluent Arabic, they knew the basics of the Sharia, and it was a very successful model until just 5 years back, just you may be aware that the new government, the BJP government, was not very happy with the successful activity we were doing in terms of dawah, in terms of schools, and because of that we had to shut that school. We had one school in Bombay, we had one school in Chennai. I do not know of any other school in India or anywhere else in the world that I visited. I visited hundreds of Islamic schools. In India, I did not come across any school that was even 5% close to the level of IS. And internationally, I did not know of any school which even came 10% close to what Islamic International School was, in terms of tarbiyah, in terms of having a dual language, in terms of giving the knowledge of Islam and the worldly education together. So my advice to you would be, the brother was a question from India, that try and find the best available Indian school if you are studying in a school, and in Bangladesh the best available school that you have, or if you know of any school abroad where you want to send your son, that's an option. After you finish the A-levels from an Islamic international school, my advice would be that if you want to dedicate and make your child as a da'i, or make your child in the field of Islamic knowledge, and you ask me for the names of good Islamic institutions, as far as Bangladesh is concerned, I'm aware that there are a few Islamic institutions, the Islamic University, which is there in Chittagong, it's there in some other parts of Bangladesh, but I'm not too much aware. I did meet the principals or the deans of this institute when I traveled to Makkah, but I'm not aware of the quality. But as a general rule, what we realize that when a Muslim studies in the institution abroad, and one of the best Islamic institute as far as studying the knowledge of Islam is concerned, according to me, is Imam Muhammad bin Saud Islamic University in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. It's one of the best. The other good institutes are the Islamic University of Medina in Saudi Arabia, as well as Qura. And there are various other Islamic universities and general universities in Saudi Arabia, many. But these three are the most prominent ones. If you study in an Islamic university where the instruction, the language of instruction is Lugha Fusa, it's the best. You have other Islamic institutes in other parts of the world. You have in Yemen, you have in Mauritania, etc. You also have good Islamic institute in Qatar. You have Hamad bin Khalifa University, you have the Qatar University, you have in Dubai, you have in Sharjah, the Sharjah Islamic University, and in the Gulf countries. But the one that I named, the first three, I believe one of the best. So if you can go to an Arab country and see to it that the institute you join is based on Quran and Sunnah, that would be the best. If you're not able to get, and you can try, you can apply, and most of these institutes, they have scholarship, but it's not easy getting in. You have to work hard, you have to apply, you have to keep on applying many times, you have to take references, and there are chances that you can get, but you have to work hard, not just apply once. So there are more than 30, 40 Islamic universities you can apply in the Arab countries. Apply to all, as many as you can. Go on the net, Google, these ones that are named are the better ones. The next option can be, if you want to study in a non-Arab country, the International Islamic University of Malaysia, that's in Kuala Lumpur, in Gombak, is a very good option. After the Arab countries that you have, if you want to go to non-Arab countries, a good Islamic university will be the IIUM, International Islamic University of Malaysia. It's a good option, but natural, here we have a dual medium of instruction in this university. It is English and Arabic. So besides, even if you want to do the worldly subjects, whether it be law, whether it be science, whether it be computer, it is compulsory in this university that you should learn at least the basics of Arabic, not a very high level. And if you want to do your graduation or a post-graduation in the IIU, in the faculty of revealed knowledge, then you have two options, either in Arabic or in English. And the Arabic you cannot compare with the Arabic of Jamiat al-Imam in Riyadh or of Madinah University, but yet it is, alhamdulillah, compared to the non-Arab country, it is good. But compared to the Arab countries, it will not be that level. Yes, they have teachers from all over the world. They have teachers from the Arab world, and they select the best of teachers from different parts of the world. So it's a good option. And if you cannot get scholarship in the Gulf countries or the Arab countries, the fees in IIU in Malaysia is reasonable. It's quite cheap, because if you have to pay the fees in the Gulf countries, it's very expensive, multiple times more expensive. So comparative, the fees of IIU is cheap. So this is the next option that you have. I am not too much favor of studying Islamic graduation and post-graduation in the Indian subcontinent. That can be the last option. But naturally in the Indian subcontinent, I would feel that the Islamic universities in Pakistan is better. For example, the Islamic University of Islamabad. After IIU, I would say that's also a good university. But in India, doing from the Indian universities, the level will not be as good. That can be the last option, but I would not advise you to go to the Bombay University or the normal education of the government. Yes, for example, Arabic in Lucknow in Natwa is good, mashallah, very good, as compared to the other madrasas. But generally, the level of Islamic education in Arabic, etc., in the Gulf country is the best. And I can tell this why, as you may be aware, that Alhamdulillah, Islamic Research Foundation and the associated organization, our full umbrella, we had more than 500 employees. 500 full-time paid employees. And amongst these 500 full-time paid employees, there were approximately about 70 of these employees, they were graduates, postgraduates and PhDs from Islamic universities. Out of which about 40 to 45 were from the Indian universities and about 25 were from the foreign universities. And we had from different Islamic institutions, I don't want to name them, but we had from variety from all over India. We had 40, so maybe from at least 10, 15 top Islamic universities. So we knew what the level was there. And plus, we had 25 from the foreign university. This is at one given time. But over the span of 10, 15 years, some staff stayed for 2 years, some for 3, some for 4, some for 5. So all put together, we had more than hundreds that we interacted with. Maybe more than 50 from foreign universities and more than 100 from the Indian universities. I would say, and the majority we had, maybe from the foreign university, maybe more than 75% were from the Islamic University of Madinah. Then we had from Jamiat al-Imam, we had from Bukhara, we had from Al-Azhar, and various foreign universities. But nationally, the level from the Saudi University was the best in terms of Lugha Fasad. And more Indians could easily get admission into Islamic University of Medina. Therefore, we had more from there. The level was much higher as compared to the graduates of the Islamic universities in India. That is the reason the school that we had, the teachers that we had, where it comes to teaching Arabic, all of them were from foreign institutes, except for one from Nadwa, he was very good. But all the Arabic languages were taught by the graduates and postgraduates and PhDs from the foreign institutes, mainly from Saudi Arabia. And whereas the other part were Hifz, Tilawat, Tajweed, and the other parts were taken from the graduates and the postgraduates from the Indian institutes. But let me tell you one thing. That as far as education is concerned, yes, if you want to see to it that it becomes my advice would be that see to it that you put yourself in a put your child into a good Islamic university. But let me tell you, as far as practical dawah is concerned, number one most important is help of Allah. And your striving is important. What you gain knowledge in university is good for your basics. But attending the durus, the lectures, and the discourses of the scholars is very important. That's the reason when a person goes to study in Medina or in Riyadh or in Makkah, he has an opportunity, besides learning in the Islamic University, if he is studying in the Islamic University in Medina, he can go to the Masjid al-Nabawi and hear the durus, or there are many halaqas that take place in Medina of different top scholars. He can attend that. If he is in Makkah, he can go to the Haram or attend other scholars, or if he is in Riyadh, the Riyadh has a better option because the Qubar ulama are there, the top ulama of Saudi Arabia are there. So very well he can attend the lectures, the sessions, and each scholar has, some have 5, some have 10, some have 15 sessions in a week, and there are plenty of them. So besides studying in the university is good. You get a degree, you get a qualification, it will be good for getting a job, but for practical dawah, studying under the scholars, one-to-one, or attending the durus is more important than what you study in the university. What you study in the university, you read, you pass the examination, that's it. Most of it is forgotten unless you revise it. So my advice would be similarly, what you study in colleges, what you learn in science or in arts or in commerce, that's the basic. Unless you do not implement it after you pass and do your internship, you will not excel in that field. The same thing with Islamic studies. So most important that if you do from a good Islamic institution, at least your bachelor, that is very important. And then get involved into practical, join a dawah organization which is practically involved in the field of dawah, or talking to non-Muslims, or a research department. Otherwise, many of the Indians, once they pass, then they do a job of translation from Arabic to Urdu or Arabic to English. That's not the reason why you went to an Islamic university. You get there, you get a good job, you get good salary. So unfortunately, when the Indian people from the Indian subcontinent, whether it's India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, they go to these institutions in the Gulf country because it's free, then they get a kafala, they get every month paid, which is good for them. When they come back, few are involved in the field of dawah, unfortunately. If your main purpose is to make your child a dai or an Islamic person of good Islamic knowledge, or in the field of Islamic teaching, etc., see to it that after he passes graduation, he gets involved practically with some dawah organization or with some scholars. Then, of course, you can go ahead. You can do a master's, you can do a PhD, but the most important is your bachelor's. Doing your bachelor's from a good, reputed institution is the most important. Because when you're doing a bachelor's, and I'm talking about bachelor's on-site, I'm not talking about bachelor's online. Online on the internet, you have got various universities. Please, the level of a good, reputed on-site university like Islamic University of Medina or Jamiat al-Imam from Riyadh, you cannot compare with any online degree, please. Yes, if a student is excellent and he has the knack, he has the passion, he can benefit from these online universities. I'm not saying don't join them, but you cannot compare the level. Please don't deceive yourself. Attending physically, meeting the scholars one-to-one is something different. The online university, the level of the scholars that teach on the online university generally, you cannot compare with the on-site university. The teachers that teach in the Medina, they are of the scholarly level. In the online universities, I hardly know. Maybe for a short time some scholars may be coming. But most of the one that I know, you cannot compare the level at all. 1-to-1 is something different. That may be the last resort if you don't have anything to do and you're at home and you're stuck, then you can join the online university. The levels are different. In the online university, among the one that I know, it is the IOU, the Islamic Online University. The name has changed to International Online University. That is run by Dr. Bilal Phillips, the one that's available. There are other ones out there, the KIU, Knowledge Islamic University, and by Sheikh Saad Nasser al-Shekri. There are many, but that level that you get in the on-site universities like Islamic University of Medina, Jamiat al-Imam, Qura is something different. So after you pass your bachelor's, I would advise you to join a Dawah organization or get involved in the scholars and simultaneously do masters. Now when you're doing masters, half of the time is a personal research and 50% or less than 50% is actually studying on-site, or maybe 1/3. So even giving less than half your time, you can complete your masters. Some universities take 2.5 years, some 3, some take 4. So while you are involved in practical Dawah, you can do your masters, and if time permits you, you can even continue your PhD, depending in which subject you are doing your PhD, depending what your liking is. But I prefer that if you are in the field of Dawah, I would prefer Sharia, with bachelor's in Sharia and master's in PhD. The next would be tafsir of the Quran. If someone has a liking for the Quran, then okay, tafsir of Quran is good. Then the hadith is there. So these are the few which are on the better knowledge. For doing Dawah, one is the Sharia. Next would be tafsir of the Quran. Third would be hadith. There are other things, usul al-deen. Then there is Dawah. So when they talk about Dawah, most of these bachelors, they're talking about Dawah to Muslims, not Dawah to non-Muslims. There are some courses like comparative religion in IIUM. There are comparative religion courses even in the Saudi universities, but that level is different. Because I've met some of the students or some of the people who have passed their PhD in comparative religion. But when you actually talk to them about the practical Dawah to be done for non-Muslims, it is very shallow. Unless the person has practical knowledge of joining a Dawah organization. That's the reason for practical Dawah, you have to get involved with people who are scholars, who are dais, who are experienced, or join an Islamic organization. That will really improve your skills, not just doing a graduation. So my advice would be, after you pass the graduation, see if they're involved, and simultaneously do your masters. If you want high level, do PhD, you can do 1 PhD, you can do 2 PhD, as long as the person is young and can take it. And so that, but these degrees are only good for the world, may not be useful for the Akhirah unless you implement it. You may get a good job, you may get a good job of a professor, or a good post, but if you do Islamic finance, you get an Islamic bank. But practically, if you want to utilize it, it is a practical knowledge sitting with people who are involved in the field, whether they are experienced du'ats or with experienced scholars. This is very important. So this last part, practically, that's the reason everyone that I know that we have at any given time 60, 70 graduates, postgraduates, and PhD. But were they good guys? I'm sorry to say. We had other people in the organization who were engineers, who were just bachelors in science, and they were multiple times better than people who were graduates from the Islamic University of Medina. Why? Because they did not be having that passion until they came and did our course of the Dawah training program. So we had a course only for the Medina graduates, and once they did that course, then they were multiple times more effective. So graduating from a good university is one thing, but putting it into practice is another thing. That's the reason that our du'ats in the research department of Islamic Research Foundation, who were normal graduates, they were paid double than what we used to pay a person with a bachelor from the Islamic University of Medina. He may have the knowledge of deen, but when you ask him a question, he may not be able to reply on the comparative religion. He may be able to reply something on fiqh, that's it. So if you want a practical person involved in the field of Dawah, unless, yes, the best would be graduate from a good university like Islamic University of Medina or Qura or Jamiat al-Imam and get involved in an Islamic organization, which is practically in the field of dawah, get attached to a person with experienced guide or a scholar, and then utilize your knowledge, what you had learned in the university, and then learn the techniques, then it would be super. Just getting a degree is not sufficient for you to get that. Yes, you get the qualification, you can be a teacher, that's it. But practically moving hearts, practically, therefore everyone who passes from the Islamic University Medina is not a good speaker. Everyone will die. The percentage that actually die are very small. That's the reason if your aim is to be a dai, get the knowledge from this university and get attached to an Islamic organization, get attached to a scholar, get attached to a dai who's experienced, and implement what you have learned. That would be the best. Hope this answers in short, because this question was asked many times and I kept on postponing because I know it would take time. So this was in short how you can see to it that you make your child, if your aim is to make him a dai or Islamic personality. This was in brief. Hope that's it. We have on the Facebook Ibrahim Khan, Mudassir Muzaffar Bhatt, Zubair Ishaq, Atikur Rahman, Atik, Imtiaz Siam, Assalamu alaikum salam, Anamul Haq, Malik Qasim, Muhammad Rasulullah from Bangladesh, I love you too, SM Sharif Shariar, Zubair Ahmad Naik, Zahid Islam, Nazir Shuo, Muhammad Jomer, Zahid Cox, Muhammad Qurban Ali, Ruma Akhtar, Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam. Many of them are doing dua, that is dua for you too. Dua for you too. On the YouTube we have Numan Yusuf, we have Marziya Hasnat Khan, Shofi Alam, Ajum Chakma, Irfan Fayyaz Mullah, Marziya Hasnat, Lightning Foundation, Khushbu, Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam. Arsiyan Manzoor, Marziya Hasnat, the legend Dawood, Zubair Islam. All are wishing Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam, and I pray for all of you too. You do pray for me too. This is a question on the Alida platform. It just came a few minutes back by Buddhadev Das. He's a student from Murshidabad, India. He's a subscriber of the Alida platform. He writes, "Dear sir, what is your thinking about those who died as committing shirk? What is positive opinion for them?" Our non-Muslim brother asked a question that what is the opinion of a person who has died while doing shirk. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very clear cut in the Quran. Very explicitly Allah says in Surah Nisa chapter number 4 verse number 48, as well as Surah Nisa chapter number 4 verse number 116. Allah says, if Allah pleases, He may forgive any sin but He will never forgive the sin of shirk. For anyone who has committed shirk has gone astray far, has committed a heinous sin. So based on these two verses of the Quran, the only sin that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not forgive if he dies as a mushrik is shirk. If he's alive, if he does shirk and if he asks for forgiveness, inshallah Allah will forgive. You do shirk 1,000 times, you ask forgiveness, as long as you ask for forgiveness before you die or until the time of death has come. Because there's a verse in the Quran, in Surah Yunus chapter number 10, where Pharaoh, while he was chasing Moses, peace be upon him, Moses parted the sea, he followed him, and after Moses, he crosses the sea again comes back to normal, and Pharaoh is about to drown. When the death has already approached him, then he says, I believe in the Lord, in the Allah of Moses. It was too late. When the time of death has come, when the moment of death has come, then if you say the Shahada, or then if you say, I believe in Allah, it will be too late. So as long as you ask for forgiveness, and you stop your shirk before dying, or minutes before the last time of death has come, Allah will forgive you. So if a person dies as a mushrik, as a person who associates partners to God, or a person while doing idol worship, then for him there is no hope except the hellfire. And there are several verses in the Quran that if a person dies as a mushrik, he will remain in hell forever, in Jahannam forever, khalidina fiha abada, forever. This is the only sin where if a person dies without asking for forgiveness, Allah will not accept. Any other sin, he may do murder, he may do zina, he may rob. If Allah wants, Allah will forgive him. May forgive him, please. But the sin of shirk, He'll never forgive. That's the reason in Islam, the two criteria for anyone to accept Islam is, number one, is agreeing that there is no God but Allah, and you should not worship anyone besides the true God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you should believe in the last and final messenger, Prophet Muhammad. So as far as question is concerned, my dear non-Muslim brother, is that I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that may Allah give you hidayah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you guidance, and see to it that you accept the faith of Islam, and you believe that there is only one God, and no God but Allah, and Prophet Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. If you have any particular queries, you are most welcome to contact through the Al-Hidayah platform, and inshallah, I will try my level best to clarify any misconceptions that you have. Hope that's the question. There's a question that came on the YouTube, that can I pray for non-Muslims can I pray to Allah for giving hidayah to non-Muslims? This question is from Shahanara Islam on the YouTube. Yes, you can very well pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give hidayah to the non-Muslim. That is the best dua you can give to a non-Muslim. Whether you have a non-Muslim friend, a non-Muslim colleague, or non-Muslim teacher, the best dua you can do for a non-Muslim is pray to Allah to give hidayah. And that's what the Prophet also, when he addressed letters to non-Muslims, he said, may Allah give you guidance. That's the best. But if anyone dies as a mushrik, if he dies as an unbeliever, then you cannot pray for him maghfirah. You cannot pray to Allah that give him Jannah. That is forbidden. And there are verses in the Quran. But as long as he's alive, yes, you can be good to him, you can help him, you can give him charity, you can take care of him, help him in normal work, all good. There's no problem at all helping a non-Muslim friend or a colleague or a teacher with money, with whatever Allah has given you facility. But the best help is doing dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that may Allah give you hidayah. And the best you can do is deliver the message of Islam, of the Quran, and the final message of Muhammad to your non-Muslim friends and colleagues of that. There's the next question on the YouTube from Sahul. I am from India. Shall I trim my beard as my mom is scolding me for having it because of uneven growth? I am just 19 years old, sir. I can trim and can't be without following my mom. Please help me, sir. So the question asked by Sahul is, can he trim his beard because mom is forcing him? Keeping a beard is fard. It's hadith of the Bukhari, in which our beloved Prophet said that do the opposite of what the pagans do, the Jews do. Trim your mustaches and let your beard grow. As far as there are two opinions as far as what is the length of the beard is concerned. One group of scholars say we keep on growing without touching it. But according to Sheikh Nasr al-Albani and the other group of scholars, the right size of the beard is a fist. Because in the hadith of Sahih Bukhari, Ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, when he says that the Prophet said, do the opposite of what the pagans do, the Jews do, trim your mustaches and grow your beard, and then he takes a fist and below the fist he cuts it. So the correct opinion according to me is that the size of the beard should be a fist. So if your mother is saying that trim, okay, very well, you can take a fist. Below the fist what is there, you can trim. It is fine, it's permitted. Some scholars also say that if there's hair coming on the side, it is permitted to trim. That's one opinion. So if your mother is telling you, my advice would be yes, see to it that if whatever the beard is above your fist, please trim it. That opinion is correct. There is one opinion that let it grow, don't trim at all. That is one group of scholars. But according to Sheikh Nasr al-Albani, it is a requirement that you should trim your, because there are various hadith, several hadith, in which the Sahabas, they did trim their beard when it was longer than a fist. There is another question on the YouTube from Muhammad Masood Hussain. Sir, from which English book can I get the knowledge of life of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him? As far as the best English book available for the seerah of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the Rahiq al-Maktoum. The English translation is The Sealed Nectar. It's the biography of the Prophet written by Sheikh Safiyur Rahman Mubarakpuri, and he has got an award many years back for the best book written on the seerah of the Prophet, and they were translated in many languages, including English. So that is one of the good books, an authentic book. There are other books on the life of the Prophet by Tahir Ismail, also by Martin Lings, but the best is Rahiq al-Maktoum. This book is available, you can go online and type it and you will find it. The next question on the WhatsApp. Assalamu alaikum, sir. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi. I am a dental surgeon, Dr. Nigar Sultana from Bangladesh. Alhamdulillah, I do niqab, cover my body and face, also except eyes. Does Islam allow a Muslim girl to study in a medical university for post-graduation purpose, where male and female study together and do the clinical work such as patient counseling, treatment services, and so on? Is there any restriction to give treatment services to the male patient? I have a dental clinic where I treat only female patients. I want to study for post-graduation degree, but the university has no separation system of male and female. What can I do for my higher study and post-graduation? Please give me your valuable opinion. Dr. Nigar Sultan, who's from Bangladesh, is a dentist, and she says that she observes hijab, she does niqab, she covers her face with eyes. She's asking the question that can a Muslimah enroll herself for post-graduation in a medical university where there is no segregation of sexes? But naturally, for education, the best education is in a single-sex school. That girls should go to only girls' school and boys should go only to a boys' school. Whether it be schooling, whether it be college, whether it be university, is the best. And scientific research has shown in several places, including the research done in UK, that the performance of a single-sex school was far better than a co-ed school. When co-ed school, the girl and the boy is more involved in trying to impress the opposite sex than to study. So research says that studying in a single-sex school, this research is anonymous. The results are much better. But Islamically, for hijab reasons, best is to study in a single-sex school. Even when you go to a college and university, the best is to study in a single-sex school. But coming to your question, that if you want to do specialization, post-graduation in dentistry, and there is no dental college which has segregation of the sexes, so can you enroll yourself? Is it permissible? And there may be times where you have to interact with your colleagues. For example, patient counseling, you have to share the same patient, take his history. I being a doctor, I'm aware of it. Is it permissible? The best is to go to a single-sex college or university, whether it be a medical college. But if you don't have any, it is permissible on the condition that you take care of your hijab. Since you say that you are doing full hijab and wearing niqab, alhamdulillah, that's very good. That is one part of it. But besides the hijab of the clothes, we should see to it that you being a dentist student, as you rightly said, you may have to interact with your colleagues while taking the history of the patient or many other reasons. Now when you interact, see to it you unnecessarily do not interact with the opposite sex unless it's required. And whenever it's required, see to it when you interact, you lower your gaze. See to it when you talk, you should not be too complacent in your voice, as the Quran says in Surah Az-Zumar to the wife of the Prophet. Be not too complacent in your voice, lest in the opposite person, in his heart is a disease. So when you talk, see to it that you do not modulate too much or do not laugh or giggle and too much do giggling, which is there in normal universities. So if you take care and control of your speech, you see to it that you lower your gaze, you see to it to interact only when required, you see to it that you maintain a distance. All this hijab, hijab of the toes, hijab of the eyes, hijab of the language, hijab of the food, all put together, if you do, it's totally permissible. See to it you are never alone with a namaram man, ever. Either you are with your other colleagues who are female, along with them, it's possible, but never alone. Because I've been to a medical college and I studied, the atmosphere of a medical college compared to dentistry is much more worse, and there are opportunities for doing many harams, so you have to take care of that, because many times you have to stay in the hospital overnight and you have to take care of patients. This atmosphere for the co-ed education is very vulnerable. Therefore, you have to take your precaution. If you take your precaution, it's permissible. You can enroll, see you to take precaution, and you maintain your hijab. Inshallah, once you get your post-graduation, you also ask the question, is it permissible for a doctor to treat the opposite sex? The best is a male doctor should treat the male, a female doctor should treat the female doctor. This is the normal norm. But if a lady is sick, and if she has a heart problem, and there is no lady heart specialist, she can very well go to a male doctor. But when she goes to a male doctor, there should be a third person, there should be a female nurse, hijab should be maintained. In this condition, Islam gives permission that a doctor can examine and look at the female patient for treatment is permissible, and the female is allowed to be with the namaram as long as there is another lady or a mahram along, it's permissible. Similarly, in your case, you said that you prefer treating only female patient as a dentist. That is the best. But can you treat male patient? If there are other male dentists to take care of them, why should you treat? Not at all. But if there's an emergency and there's no one else, and if a male patient comes and if he has a toothache and if he's really dying of pain and if you have to give treatment, no one else, that's permitted. As long as you take care of your hijab, he takes care of his hijab, you have someone else in the room when you're treating. But generally, a male doctor taking care of the male patient and a female doctor taking care of female patient is the best. And we in Bombay, we had a United Islamic Aid. So we had a field clinic and every day we used to treat approximately 200 patients. So we had two doctors, one was a female doctor, one was a male doctor. The female doctor treated only the female patient. The male doctor treated only the male patient. The children, they had the option to go to any of the two. But the adults, we had this policy, though the treatment was free for their condition, we had good qualified doctors, but we saw to it that we maintained the Islamic hijab. So the best is male treating a male and a female treating a female, but in emergency cases where there's no option or you don't have a specialist in that field, it is permitted here for treating patient. In this situation, an opposite sex can give the treatment. Hope that's it. The next question from the WhatsApp. Muhammad Mastan from Madurai, Tamil Nadu, India. Is living a luxurious life and having 10 or more very expensive cars, living in a mansion of rupees 20 crores haram in Islam? Can a person live a luxurious life if he made money from halal businesses and he's also spreading Islam and he's also helping poor people with half from his whole earnings and more than that? A similar question is also asked by Muhammad Shebud Alam. He is also from Tamil Nadu, India. MashaAllah. Both are from Tamil Nadu, India. Is it permissible in Islam to aspire to become the richest man in the world through halal ways? Both the questions are similar. As far as the first question is concerned, that is it permissible in Islam for a man to have 10 very expensive cars and own a mansion of 20 crore rupees? 20 crore rupees is equal to 200 million rupees. So in terms of dollars, it will not be a lot. It will be a few $1 million. Less than $3 million. And he said that, is it permissible for a person to live a luxurious life if his earnings are from halal earnings, from halal businesses, and he is doing dawah, he is giving charity, half of his earnings is giving charity. Is it permissible? And the second question is, can a person wish to be the richest man in the world through halal earnings? As far as is it permitted for a person to wish to be a richest man through halal earnings, it's permissible. But the question is, once you become a richest man, will you be able to pass the test? Is a different question. Because the beloved Prophet Muhammad said, it is easier for a poor man to go to Jannah than a rich man. Because if you're a poor man, you have to pay zakat. If you're a rich man, you have to pay zakat. Then you have to give charity. So, it is permissible for a person to pray or wish to become the richest man in the world through halal earnings. And the best example is Prophet Solomon al-Salam. Prophet Solomon, may Allah be pleased with him, he prayed to Allah that give me a dominion which is the best, and you will not give that to anyone after that. He not only wished to have the best and the richest kingdom, he prayed to Allah that don't give anyone better than that. He was a prophet of God. He asked for something, Allah gave him, and there are other examples. But he was a messenger of God. He passed the test. For a normal human being, the more richer you are, the more difficult is the test. Is it permissible? Yes. Coming to the first question, that can a person own 10 very expensive cars and a mansion of 20 crore rupees, which is less than $3 million? Now everything is subjective. If the person is a billionaire, then owning 10 very expensive cars means, very expensive, $100,000, maybe at least 75 lakh rupees. Then, okay, if he's a billionaire, okay. But if a person who's earning $1,000 a month, and if he says, I want to buy a car of $50,000, it will be israf. But if a person owns $1,000 a month and he says, I want to own a car of $5,000 or $10,000, that's acceptable. But owning a $50,000 car or $100,000 car, it's israf. Similarly, if a person is earning $10,000, then he says, I want to own a car of $50,000, that may not be israf. Everything is subjective. So the basic rule that can you wish to be the richest man, or can you earn in the halal way and earn expensive things? Point number one is your earnings should be halal. And both the questions are answered. Point number one, your earnings should not be halal. Point number two, you should not purchase with that halal money anything which is haram. Or do not do any activity which is haram. Point number two. And the third, you should not do israf. And the fourth, minimum, give your zakat. So there are minimum 4 criteria required, and more will come later on. Number one is that your earnings should be halal, then you can wish to be the richest man, you can be a billionaire, you can even be a multi-billionaire. The earnings should be halal. Number two, with that money, don't buy anything haram, don't use it for haram activity, anything. Number three, see to it that you don't do israf. And number four, see to it you give minimum zakat. Coming to the question, the first question, that can you own 10 expensive cars? Yes, if he's a billionaire, he can. 10 very expensive cars. But you said that can you own a mansion of 20 crore rupees? No, 20 crore rupees is very small. It's very less. $3 billion. The 10 expensive cars, very expensive cars, would be equivalent to a mansion. So when a person owns 10 expensive cars, it will be costing somewhere close to 10 crore rupees. The mansion, if you go to a city like Bombay, with 20 crore rupees, you can't get a mansion. You can get a good apartment. Mansion with a big villa, you require a few hundred crores. So maybe your judgment was not right. Yes, you can have a mansion in the village. But if you're living in a village, what will you do with 10 expensive cars? People who want expensive cars, they stay in the city so that they can utilize it and show to the people who go on the highway. Anyway, your basic question was that can you buy 10 expensive cars or a very expensive mansion, whether it's 100 crores or 200 crores or $10 million or $100 million? Yes, if his capacity of earning is there. So what is israf for one will not be israf for the other. Like I said, a person earning $1,000 a month, for him even buying a $50,000 car is israf. But for a millionaire earning $1 million a month, for him to buy a $100,000 car, not 110, it's not israf. As long as the earning is halal, as long as he's not doing any haram thing with his money, not buying or doing haram activity, as long as he gives his zakat, as long as he's not doing israf. So israf is subjective. Similarly with a mansion. If you're earning a lot and if you're part of your income, you're buying a mansion, no problem. But the second paragraph, what you ask, that if you are giving 50% charity, that itself causes most of the problem. If he's very rich, his earning is halal, he's spreading dawah and giving 50% of his earnings in charity. If this is the case, then alhamdulillah, as long as he takes care that he's earning halal, he's doing dawah, he's giving 50% charity, but natural zakat plus 50% charity, he only takes care. Israf also will not come because he gives 50% charity. The only care he should take is should not use his money for any haram activity. But the chances that we get such people who are billionaires and giving 50% of the income in charity is very negligible. Yes, there are people who are giving more than 50% of their earnings in charity. I know many. There are people. But very few. A very small, negligible percentage. But the moment you start earning, and I always say that a charity depends on a percentage. For example, a poor man who's earning $1,000 a month. If he gives $100 charity every month, he is far superior than a person who earns $1 million a month and gives $10,000 every month as charity. The person who's earning $1 million and is giving $10,000 every month in charity, he's only giving 1% of his income. The person who's earning $1,000 and giving $100 every month, he's giving 10% of his income in charity. That means he's 10 times much better than the person who earns $1 million a month. So that's the reason. There is no harm in wishing to be the richest man, but the test will be stronger. For you to have your enough, you say, okay, fine, I'm already giving $10,000. Who's giving $10,000 a month? I'm giving. But Allah is giving $1 million a month, so $10,000 is only 1%. Very small amount. His zakat should be bigger than that. But if you earn a lot and you keep on storing, that will be 2.5%. Person earns $1 million, he keeps on accumulating within few years, he'll be having tens of millions of dollars, $100 million. So if you give $10,000 per month, per year, become $100,000, that will be less than his zakat also. It will be haram. So minimum you have to give is 2.5% of his saving. The person who is earning $1 million a month, his zakat only will be more than $10,000 a month. And plus he has to give additional charity. So, praying to be the richest man is no problem. You should take care of the things I mentioned. And if you are a person who is giving 50% of his income in charity, then owning the expensive cars, no problem. Everything is subjective. It's not the amount, it is for what thing you're doing. For example, a person who is earning $1,000 a month, if he buys a $50,000 watch, it's israf. Because car is more expensive, $50,000, even if he buys a $10,000 watch, 10 times the salary, it's israf. For the other rich person who's earning a $10,000 a month, and if you buy the $10,000 watch, no problem. So everything is subjective. Like for example, in the Gulf countries, air conditioning is a necessity. Even for the poor man, even in the jail, in the central jail, in the Gulf countries, we have air conditioning. In India, it's a luxury in most parts of India. So what is the necessity there in one part of the world, in the other part it may be a luxury. So everything is subjective as long as it does not fall in the category of Isra. Because Allah says in the Quran in Surah Isra, chapter number 17, verse number 25, 26, 27, that all those who are spendthrifts, who are extravagant in expenditure, they are brothers of the devil. Of that. The next question. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Muzammil Ayyub and I am from Kashmir. Can a girl preach as a daya of Islam through social media by staying in full hijab? A similar question is asked. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh. I am Shazia Pathan, a homemaker from London, UK. Is it permissible for a Muslim woman to do dawah to a non-Muslim male? Can a Muslimah give a talk in a mixed gathering of males and females where non-mahram males are also present? The two questions posed were, the first is that can a Muslimah be a dai of Islam? And can she do dawah on the social media in full hijab? And the second question is, can a Muslimah give a talk in the public wearing hijab in a mixed gathering of male and female, is permissible? And can a Muslim do dawah to a non-Muslim male? I will answer both the questions together. The basic rule is generally, as a general rule, a male should do dawah to a male and a female should do dawah to a female, as a general rule. There are exceptions. But generally, a male should do dawah to a male and a female should do dawah to a female. As far as dawah is concerned, the question posed was on the social media. Can a Muslimah do dawah on the social media in full hijab? And the second question was that in a public gathering, a mixed gathering, can a woman give a public talk in a mixed gathering of male and female where there are non-mahrams also in the public? First we'll come to the dawah on the social media, then we'll come to in the public, one or in a public place. In social media, there are various different ways where you can do dawah on social media, depending upon which type of social media you're talking about. Everything has its own speciality. Are you talking about a website? Is it on the internet? Is it a Facebook? Is it on the WhatsApp? Is it on the YouTube? Is it on the Instagram? Is it on the Pinterest? Is it on the Twitter? Is it on the Tumblr? Is it on Snapshot? Each has its own pros and cons while doing dawah, and each has its own restriction as far as ladies are concerned. In general, if you have to divide the types of dawah you can do social media, you can broadly classify into 4 categories in the main dawah. There are others also. Number 1 can be as a text on the social media or on the print media, text. Mainly text, with nothing but text, written matter. Second, so as far as text is concerned, where there is nothing else besides text, a lady has no restriction as long as the matter she is speaking is within the boundaries of Islam. As long as she doesn't say anything in the text material which is haram, it is permitted. There is no restriction. A lady can do with the lady, a lady can do with a gent can do with the lady, as long as only one-way traffic is concerned. She can write a book, she can write an article, she can mention a blog. I'm talking about one way. She can write an article in the newspaper, article in the magazine, she can write a book, she can write an article on a blog, she can mention an article maybe on the Twitter. If it's a one-way traffic, lady can do to a lady can do a gent can do to a gent can do to a lady. There is no restriction as long as the content is Islamic and isn't outside the boundaries of Islamic Sharia. The content should not be obscene, the content should not be haram. It's permissible. This is the first type. Print media, very safe, no problem. But in the print media, but while writing an article, you say, now I want to be a journalist, so I would like a lady saying, I want to go and take an interview of a male. Now she goes in the office and she takes an interview of a male in a closed door, no one is there, only you and the person to take the interview is a male, is a namera. The Prophet said, if there are 2 namera, male and a female, in a closed room, the third person is there. So writing is no problem, but if you say you want to be a journalist, okay, you take an interview only of the females, no problem. But a lady going and taking an interview of a gent, it is not Islamic. Why should she? There are other gents who can take. So writing article, no problem. Taking interview of a lady, no problem. Penning it down, no problem. Putting it on the website, no problem. As long as it's only text material. That is the first part. But secondly, if on the social media, along with the text, you're putting your photograph, if it's only ladies watching, no problem. But putting a photograph of a female, wearing a hijab, head is covered but face is seen, putting a photograph, it's not valid. Especially when it's a public platform, even the gent can see, so it is not permitted. There's one group of scholars who says it's permissible, but the authentic group and the group of scholars which are close to Quran and Sunnah, it is haram, and it's not permitted for a woman to put a photograph. Maybe she puts a photograph on the Twitter account, her photograph. She can put any other image of scenery. But if she puts her photograph on the Twitter account where she is texting, okay, texting is fine. In many social media, you can have an account which only you can allow people to come. For example, you say that you're a girl, you want to have a particular on the Twitter or on the Facebook, and it's a private page, you only allow ladies to come, no problem. But even in such cases, please don't you put your photograph, because you don't know. There can be a male who can come in the guise of a woman, you may not know. So when you are going on a public platform, even though you are encouraging only females to come in, you cannot put your photograph. You can write text, no problem. But putting a photograph is not advisable, even if you are very careful of seeing to it that you only allow ladies to come. A gent can come, it's a open internet, you cannot, with all your ability, you cannot see to it that restrict the high clothes. Taking that precaution, okay, you allow only ladies. When you're interacting, chatting on the social media or on the WhatsApp or on the Twitter. See to it that chatting male with male is allowed, female with female allowed, but unnecessary a female with a male doing dawah, it is not advisable. Yes, there are some people asking question to a scholar, and the scholar is answering on the Twitter is permissible if it's a male. But chatting one-to-one, how are you, this, that, and giving reply on the spot and all, this is not advisable, it should not be done. We know many a time that there are many sites which are catering to do dawah to the non-Muslims, and the female Muslimah is chatting with a non-Muslim. How are you? And they're trying to do dawah. Even though they cannot see your face, there's no question of hijab because their face is not seen. They're only chatting. So there's no question of hijab. You can even type without wearing a hijab. But when you're talking, unnecessarily talking to an opposite sex is not required. That's in an emergency if you do, it's permissible. But generally, let the male do dawah to the male, the female to female. So this is the first type as far as testing is concerned. One-way traffic like book, article, printing material, no problem at all. Even on the social media, if it's one way, but chatting is not advisable. If it's a group, see to it that you don't put your images, your photograph, it is safe. That's the first criteria talking about text and print. The second would be maybe graphics. A lady may be very good in graphic designing, so maybe she puts an ayat of the Quran and has a good design behind it, or good scenery, or she puts hadith of the Prophet and she puts it onto the social media, that's perfect. So she's using her graphic skills in designing, as long as she's not utilizing a photograph or not doing anything haram. She graphically designs the post very well, whether it be on the Pinterest or whether it be on the Facebook, but see to it that that graphic is not involving any haram activity. If she's posting it whether on the Pinterest, whether on the Facebook, you can also now post on the Twitter. There are various options available now on the Instagram. So the second category would be graphic designing or using your skills or animation. As long as it doesn't break the rule of Sharia, there is no interaction with opposite sex, this second type is also permissible. Now coming to the third type, which is audio, your voice. We know in Islam that the voice of a woman does not come in the aura. No. So the question is that can a woman give lecture on the audio? There are two views. One group says, okay, no problem, women can give audio because not the aura. The other group, which is more close to Quran Sunnah, says that a woman should not give lecture even to the gents. And I agree with the second. Because when you are giving a lecture, you're modulating your voice, and Allah says in the Quran, in Surah Azab, to the wife of the Prophet, that do not be too compassionate in your voice, lest the other person, there may be a disease in his heart. So imagine the Ummahatul Mu'mineen, who was so pure, for them Allah puts a restriction that do not be too compassionate in your voice, otherwise in the other person there may be a disease in his heart. Imagine, all the wives of the Prophet are the mothers of the believers, yet Allah put that condition. So similarly, a Muslimah giving lecture to the Muslim woman or to the non-Muslim woman is perfectly fine. But a Muslim woman giving lecture to a namera male, it should be avoided. Talking is permissible, as I told in my earlier answer. Talking, seeing to lowering your gaze, if it's required, unnecessary. But giving a public lecture to be effective, you have to modulate. You cannot say, I'm talking about Islam. Islam has got 5 pillars. The first is Salah, the first is Tawheed, etc. It will not be effective. You have to modulate. Even when you're speaking with the ladies, you have to modulate. You can't be, without modulation. So, if a woman gives a lecture, only to the woman, no problem. She should see to it that she does not publicize her audio on the social media. And as far as my wife is concerned, though she knows very well that voice is not the part of our woman, she never had an audio recording. She never encouraged audio recording, no video recording. She always gives lectures to the ladies, one-to-one in gatherings of 100, 1,000 people, no problem, but always audio and video recording was private. Lately, since last year because of pandemic, where people, all the on-site lectures stopped, there were no gatherings, you can't have gathering of 1,000, can't even have 100, can't even have 50. So then I coaxed her and told her that voice is not part of Aura, why don't you give on the social media? So on the Zoom, she gave lecture to the lady, but she saw to it that she did not put the video on, only audio. Because with audio restriction, though when you are giving on the Zoom, you have a control who's coming in. You may never know, a gent may come posing as a lady. So that's the reason when she was giving audio lectures, she had PPT, PowerPoint question, that's good. You can have scenery, you can have graphic designers on graphic design, but avoid video. Even if you allow only ladies, you may not know who will break that barrier. So, if you are giving a lecture only to the ladies, it's mentioned on the poster, on the social media, that this talk is exclusively for the ladies. And then it says in the bottom, gents may also get reward if they invite their female relative for this talk. Indirectly telling them, okay, you can get reward by inviting, maybe your wife, your daughter, your sister, your mother to the program, no problem. But it's only for the ladies. And if a gent breaks the barrier, you don't want them to come, fine, it's his fault. And that time if you're giving audio speech and if there is a modulation, that's his problem, you're not going out of the way to give a lecture to a gent. So when a lady is doing dawah on the social media, it is preferable that the social media is restricted only to ladies. Though there is one group of scholars which says there's no problem, there is no restriction, etc. But I agree with the other group which is more strict and more close to Quran Sunnah, that even the audio, though it's not part of the aura, it should not be done freely to the mixed gathering. It should exclusively be done to female to female. So in the second category of audio, you can, because whether you have a talk, audio talk on the YouTube or on the Zoom or on the Facebook, you can convert the visual into, instead of the video recording, to a PPT, a PowerPoint presentation, or a graphic design, or maybe a graphic that comes in. If you're quoting a verse of the Quranic verse comes. You can mention the points in brief. So it's more interactive. And fine, you can ask questions. The lead is asking questions. So you can use the Zoom call for a live talk, or you can have a video conferencing. You can use the social media platform, but see to it that the visual is for us. So this is the third category where restriction is very important. And the last type in the social media is the video. As far as video is concerned, as I mentioned earlier, that if a lady is doing hijab and not covering the face, if she believes that doing niqab is not fard, and even I too believe, in the opinion of Sheikh Nasruddin al-Albani, that covering the face is not a fard for a woman. But that does not mean she can give a talk in front of a mixed gathering, male and female, whether it be physically or whether it be on the video in the social media. Because though the niqab is not fard, but giving a talk, then her face is seen and the men are watching her, whether it be a live talk or whether it be on the social media, whether it be on the Facebook or whether on the YouTube. This, according to me, is not permitted, though there is one group of, mainly the Western group, who say it's permitted, but I disagree with them. I agree with those group of scholars. The list of scholars is big. The Bin Baz, Sheikh Nasruddin al-Albani, Sheikh Utaymin, all of these, Abdullah ibn Jibreel, they are very strict and they say that for a woman to give a talk in front of women, not allowed at all. Even audio. They said audio also, if the audio recording is shown, only in case of necessity, otherwise they should not, audio recording should only be broadcast to a lady, but not to a mixed gathering. And I agree with that view. So, on video, she cannot say that I will restrict only the gents. She said, I have a Zoom call, I restrict only to the female. It is not possible at all. That barrier can easily be broken. That's the reason I would suggest that a Muslimah should not use video recording on any of the social media platforms. Because how can you restrict? It's very difficult. Anyone easily can break the ban. That's the reason best is only audio to ladies. If a gent comes in, okay, the voice is not the aura and it's his fault, he's breaking the barrier. But if you're showing visual, there are high chances they can come in and you are showing your face, and that becomes a higher level of thing which is not permitted. Similarly, in a mixed gathering, can a woman give lecture in a mixed gathering where there are na-mahram? Even if she's doing hijab and opening the face, not allowed. Now come to the second question, that can she give lecture wearing a niqab? Now here, again there is difference. That can a lady wearing a niqab give a lecture in a mixed gathering? There's one group of scholars says even if a lady wears a niqab in a mixed gathering, she cannot give a lecture. One group of scholars says she can. I would not say it is haram, but I would say it is best to avoid. Even if a lady coming in a niqab in a mixed gathering in front of hundreds of people, where there are na-mahram, I would not recommend. I would not say it is haram, but I would not recommend. I do lean towards the first group of scholars who say that even in a mixed gathering, if she wears niqab, her voice modulation is there, which will be a fitna, and why should she come in the front? There are other gents who can come. In front of ladies, no problem. With niqab, without hijab. If she shows her hair also, if it's only ladies, no problem. So, in general rule, a male does dawah to a male, a female does dawah to a female. I know many countries where I've gone. I'm going to a dawah center, there is a Muslim boy who is doing dawah to a non-Muslim girl in a closed room. There's a discussion room, very small, hardly 25 square feet or 50 square feet, and one-to-one spending hours together. It's haram. Our beloved Prophet said, if two na-mahram, male and female na-mahram, are in the same room, the third person is a devil. So how can you say you can do dawah? It's very common, especially in Western countries and many other parts of the world. You cannot break the hijab level. Normally let the male do to the male, one-to-one, female to a female. In writing, no problem. In text, no problem. In print material, no problem, as long as it's not chatting on the social media. Print is the safest. Second would be graphic designing, no problem. Third would be audio. Okay, restrict only to audio and see to it that don't involve the male. If they break it, okay, that's their problem, they're doing something wrong. But as far as live lectures or the videos for the woman, she should exclusively do only amongst the women, and she should not use any of her photographs, any of her video on the social media. Please. It is, I agree with those group of scholars who say that women should not use her photograph or her video anywhere on the social media, on any of the platform, whether it be internet, whether it be website, whether it be Facebook, whether it be Twitter, whether it be on the WhatsApp, whether it be on the DP. A photograph and a video should not be used at all. And one very important advice, which we also followed in our school, that if a lady is taking photograph, she can very well share the photograph only with the family members, that's it. It's very common that there are females who are doing hijab, very good, they take out photograph among their friends and they give it to their friend. Okay, it's allowed for a female to share the photograph with a friend. But what if that photograph is seen by her brother, by her father? Because the brother of your friend is not your mother. No, she's very Islamic, she'll not show. My advice is never share your photograph, even with your friend. The only person you can share a photograph is with your family members, because if you give it to your sister will show it to the brother, no problem. So even if you're following strict hijab, please make a note that don't share your photograph with your female friends also, whether it be on the WhatsApp, whether it be on the mobile phone. I would not say it is haram, because if you are so confident that, okay, ma'am, my friend has my photograph, but she will not show to anyone, okay. But if she shows to someone, who is the cause of breaking the hijab? So my advice is not to give even to your friends. If you are so confident that she is a very good friend, it may yet come in the makruh category, inviting the risk. So when you take a photograph on your mobile statement, it remains only in the family members. It doesn't go out in WhatsApp group of friends. I'm giving one to my female friend and she will share, she may not be that strict. So this is the advice as far as the dawah for the ladies are concerned when they're doing on the social media or whether they're live on camera. Hope that's the question. The next question. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam. I am from Bangladesh and I am a student. Is it permissible for a Muslim to eat the food that the non-Muslim worshippers prepare during the holy festivals? So again, the question is it permissible for a Muslim to eat the food prepared by the non-Muslim during the festivals? This type of food that is prepared in festivals by the non-Muslims are of two types. One food is the food on which the name of somebody else besides Allah is taken. For example, in Christianity, many times in the church they give bread and wine, known as the communion for the Eucharist. In communion, they give the bread and the wine, saying that this represents the flesh and the blood of Jesus Christ. Now this, again, on that food is the name taken of somebody else besides Allah. They consider Jesus as God, peace be upon him, Nauz Billah. In Hinduism, they have the prasad. Prasad is normally an offering given to the gods. You know, they give offering of flour, they give offering of food. It may be in the type of sweet rice, or maybe fruits, maybe coconut. So they give it to God, and then after that they give it to the devotees and to their friends. This prasad, the name of God is taken. So this type of food in festivals where the name of any other besides Allah, the name of the false God is taken, or the saints are taken. Allah is very clear cut in the Quran in no less than 4 different places. In Surah Baqarah chapter number 2 verse number 173. In Surah Ma'idah chapter number 5 verse number 3. In Surah Anam chapter number 6 verse number 145. And Surah Nahl chapter number 16 verse number 115. Allah says, Hurrimat alaykumul maytutu wa damu wa lahmul khinzir. That forbidden for you for food are dead meat, blood, the flesh of swine, and any food on which any name besides Allah name is taken. So here Allah is very clear cut in no less than 4 different places. That besides blood, dead meat, the flesh of swine, that is pork, any food on which any name besides Allah's name is taken, it is prohibited. So if during festival, during Christmas or during any Christian festival or during a Hindu festival, whether it be Ganpati, they are giving prasad on Lord Ganesh, all these things, this food is totally haram, you cannot have it. The second type of food is that people make food for Christmas, sweets, maybe the name of Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, is not taken, or they prepare food for Diwali or for Hindu festival where it is not part of prasad. Can you have this food? So if a non-Muslim friend or a neighbor is giving you sweets for Diwali or sweets for Christmas, can you have it? Under this condition also you should not take it. Why? Because when you accept sweets for Christmas, that means you are agreeing with the festival of Christmas. Now Christmas is a festival celebrated by the Christians. They say that Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, is the begotten Son of God. And he was born on the 25th of December. That means they are saying that Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, was a begotten Son of God. He was born to Almighty God on the 25th of December, and Jesus is God. So what you are doing, you are agreeing with them. The moment you take the sweet, that means you are agreeing. It's a good day. So not only are you not correcting them, you are giving shahada that Nauz Billah, Allah begot a son on the 25th of December, which is shirk. And they believe Jesus is God. So only by taking the sweet, you are becoming party to that. You cannot attend the functions, the Christmas party. You cannot go there. No, I'm only going because, I want to be good to them, I want to be kind to them, so it's not allowed at all. Allah is very clear cut in Surah Ma'idah, chapter number 5, verse number 2, that you help one another in righteousness and piety. That help one another in bir and taqwa, in righteousness and piety. Wala ta'awun, but do not help each other in sin and transgression. That means helping one another in sin and transgression is prohibited. Now, when you go to a Christmas party, you are agreeing with them that Christmas is good. You cannot say, I don't want to break the heart. This is totally wrong. In Islam, you cannot support them for something which is wrong. Similarly, when you are taking food, which they are giving sweets for Christmas or sweets for Diwali, you are agreeing with it. So even food on which God's name is not taken, but is part of a festival, and almost all the festivals, most of the non-Muslim festivals, they go against the Sharia. Either there is shirk in it, or there is some other element to it which is against the Sharia. So not only should you eat the food on which God's name is taken, whether it be the communion, the bread and the wine, or whether it be the prasad, you cannot even take the sweets given for Diwali, or for Ganpati, or for Christmas. It's haram. Neither can you attend the function. All these are prohibited, and a Muslim should stay away from them. There can be a situation where someone calls me for a Christmas party, and then we say, okay, fine. They have called me to give a lecture. Fine, I give a lecture. I'll give a lecture on Jesus is not God. If I'm going to give a lecture, I see today don't do anything haram. I don't have any haram food. I'm going there and I'm telling to everyone. I'm giving a public talk there. To everyone, it's very clear cut. And I'm telling them that Jesus is not God, but He is a messenger. No problem. Such situations are very rare, making it very evident to everyone that you are disagreeing with the Christian. So if you go there to give a lecture and do dawah to them, not one-to-one, you can't say, okay, I'm going to do dawah to one of them. But the others will think, okay, you're agreeing with the party. So you can't go to a party and say, okay, if you're called to give a public lecture, so then everyone attending the party knows very well that you are coming there and your message is very clear. Okay. No, I'm going and I'll do dawah to just two of my friends. You can do dawah to those two of the friends any other time. Why in the Christmas party? Why in the Diwali party? So it's very important that you follow the rules of the Islamic Sharia. But if you're called as a guest speaker, you're giving to everyone, it's permitted. You take precaution that you don't eat anything haram, and you don't do any haram act there, but giving the message of Islam and calling them towards Islam is permitted. Hope that's the question. Sheikh Shafiullah, working for Flipkart, and I am a student from Kolkata, India. Please give your views about Darus Salam publications. I don't know much about it, and I bought Sahih Bukhari from them online and planning to buy more in future. Sheikh Shafiullah asked a question that how is Darus Salam publication? He wants to know. He bought Sahih Bukhari from them, and should he continue buying from them? Darus Salam publication is one of the largest publications of English authentic books on Islam. On authentic English books on Islam. Darus Salam publication, it started in 1986. And the name of the owner is Sheikh Abdul Malik Mujahid. He's a close friend of mine. And I'm associated with Darus Salam for several years, for several decades. It's 35 years old. It started in 1986. It's 35 years old. And the main intention was to give to the public authentic books, books which are authentic. Because many times when you go to an Islamic bookstore, some of the bookstores, the matter in it, it is Islamic book, but it's un-Islamic matter. It may be stories from here and there, it may not be based on the Quran, it may not be based on authentic hadith, there may be stories and there may be books written by unauthentic people. So his main mission was to make authentic books, and number two, print in good quality. His main two purpose of starting the Darus Salam publication was that it should be authentic, it should not have material which is against the Quran and Sunnah, and number two, should be of quality. The main headquarters is in Riyadh, and today, mashallah, after 35 years, they have got branches in I think, more than 20-25 countries. And the main books are in three languages: English, Urdu, and Arabic. But they have publication in more than 25 languages. Only the Quran, they are published in 26 different languages. But the main focus is English, Urdu, and Arabic. And they have published more than 1,400 books in the last 35 years. And one of the mission was to translate the Quran in different languages, which they translated in 25 languages. Even the English translation, they saw to it that they checked it, they have printed the Noble Quran, and they have also translated the tafsir of the Quran by Ibn Qasir. Ibn Qasir originally is an English language. They had a team of scholars, mashallah, Darul Salam has a big team of scholars, and they have got many people who are researchers and scholars. So this tafsir of Ibn Qasir was supervised by Sheikh Safir Rahman Mubarakpuri. Sheikh Safir Rahman Mubarakpuri, he supervised this team of scholars, and what they did, that when they translated the Tafsir Ibn Qasir, they call it the abridged version. In Ibn Qasir, when he gives the views of different scholars, and some scholars, their views was based on Zaif Hadith. So this Darul Salam publication with the team of scholars, they removed those opinions which were based on Zaif Hadith and which were authentic. So in the abridged version of Tafsir Ibn Qasir, you are safe that if not 100%, almost all the views are based on Quran and Sahih. It's good. The normal full version of Ibn Qasir has got views of scholars which may not be based on authentic hadith. So they removed those views. So this is a very good work they have done. So their work on the basis of tafsir of the Quran is very good, mashallah. So they published this in 10 volumes. The translation of Tafsir Ibn Qasir, the abridged version. They also did a great deal of work in hadith. They took up the task of translating. Sahih Bukhari was available in other translations, by other publications, but the English was very poor. So they did a new translation of Sahih Bukhari, and this is much better than the earlier one. Then they translated Sahih Muslim, then they made summarized version of Sahih Bukhari, summarized version of Sahih Muslim. Then what they did is they translated the full Kutub al-Sittah. Besides Bukhari and Muslim, they translated Sunan Abu Dawud, Jami Tirmidhi, Sunan Nisai, Ibn Majah, all the Kutub al-Sittah. Then even Musnad Ahmad. So mashallah, they have done a great work. This was not done in the English language. It took many years, a lot of money was spent. And furthermore, they even translated the Rahiq al-Maktum, the question asked to be earlier. Then they translated the book of Sheikh Safir Rahman Mubarakpuri from Arabic to English, called it the Sleep Nectar, and it's available. They also did the Jami Kamil. The Jami Kamil is published in Arabic, and now inshallah, very soon the translation would be complete in the next, maybe the Ramzan or a few months after that. Next year, in 2022, it will be released. Alhamdulillah, they have done a great work for the Ummah. And Sheikh Malik Mujahid's main purpose was to serve the Ummah. And he's done a lot. And there are books on the Seerah of the Prophet and other topics on the pillars of Islam. And mashallah, great deal of it. And when they translate even the Sunan Abu Dawud, majority of hadith, they mention in the bracket. So, if you want to buy any books in English language, or Urdu, or Arabic, you can safely, when you buy from Darul Salam publication, they're authentic. Almost all the work, there may be human error here and there, but otherwise, it's very safe to buy from this. And at present, there are more than 25 languages. And besides books, now they started electronic, they started toys for the children, they have gone into other fields, trying to diversify. And alhamdulillah, Sheikh Abdul Malik Mujahid is a close friend of mine, and he has done a great service for the Muslim Ummah, especially in the field of Islamic knowledge. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant him the best of this world as well as the akhirah. The next question on the WhatsApp. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam. I am a non-Muslim politician. I live in Batu, Selangor, Malaysia. I purposely not taking the name of the person. I want to convert to Islam, but majority of my political supporters oppose my conversion as I previously pledged to defend coke, alcohol and gambling. What do you advise me to do? This non-Muslim brother of ours is a politician from Selangor, Malaysia. It is just maybe 1 hour drive from where I am.